your role. Hey! 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 Stop.
Professional wrestling has been a unique way of entertainment for over a century all over the world. Different from traditional Olympic wrestling, professional wrestling was what wrestler Lou Thesz described as removing the competitive aspect and giving fans of the sport excitement and drama. Professional wrestling went from carnival slideshows to territories all over the world to the pop culture phenomenon it is today. And supplementing this pop culture phenomenon were the wrestling video games. There were some that were not based on a specific company, like the popular Fire Pro Wrestling series in Japan, and there were some based on specific companies. Arguably the most popular of those wrestling games was the Nintendo 64 release of WWF No Mercy. It didn't even start off as World Wrestling Federation. In the 50s, the company was known as Capital Wrestling Corporation as part of the numerous territories operating under the National Wrestling Alliance. Capital Wrestling Corporation was operated by Vincent J. McMahon and Toots Mondt. In 1963, McMahon pulled CWC from the NWA over a dispute between wrestler Buddy Rogers and NWA heavyweight champion Lou Thesz. CWC was restructured into its own wrestling company, Worldwide Wrestling Federation, and Buddy Rogers would become their first world champion. However, until Vincent J. McMahon's son founded Titan Sports Incorporated and used that to buy the WWF from his dad in 1980. Under the new leadership died in its previous name and set in motion plans for the WWF, the other wrestling promotions in the country could not keep up with the WWF's success and either completely shuttered or faded into obscurity. But one promotion did come close to matching, and Eric Bischoff started a storyline that was more grounded in reality than nearly everything that had been shown on mainstream wrestling television in the 80s and the 90s. The New World Order storyline, which portrayed former WWF employees Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall as renegades that declared they would take over the WCW and would either recruit more allies or destroy opposition in ways that made people believe that the NWO legitimately assaulted people. The NWO storyline made WCW the #1 rated wrestling company for 83 weeks. Stone Cold Steve Austin, D-Generation X, and The Rock. With WCW's success with the NWO storyline and the WWF's success with the Attitude Era came the success of the video games. The first wrestling video game was the 1983 Tag Team Wrestling by Technos Japan, developers of the Double Dragon franchise and the Kunio-kun franchise, known in the West as River City. Tag Team Wrestling was not affiliated with any official wrestling promotion, only featuring generic tag team wrestlers, including a team that would inspire the Strong Bad character from the popular web series Homestar Runner. 1987 saw the release of the first wrestling game based on an official wrestling promotion, Micro League Wrestling. This game was based on the WWF promotion and was actually a turn-based strategy where you had to carefully select which moves you would use against your opponent. As wrestling became more popular, so did the push for wrestling video games. WWF games enjoyed modest success, including Midway's WrestleMania the arcade game from 1995. In 1996, a new wrestling game franchise started in Japan, Virtual Pro Wrestling, developed by the Man-Breeze, which would become the Aki Corporation at that point in their careers. Virtual Pro Wrestling would feature wrestlers from several promotions like All Japan Pro Wrestling, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Wrestle Association R, Michinoku Pro Wrestling, and World Championship Wrestling. Virtual Pro Wrestling would be localized in the West as WCW vs. the World. That localization would leave the already included members of the WCW roster untouched, but for the wrestlers who worked for the Japanese promotions, they would still be in the game, but retooled as fictional wrestlers. For the West, WCW vs. the World would introduce innovations like stamina bars, custom championship belts, and at that point, the largest roster of wrestlers in a video game, even if most of the wrestlers represented could not use their actual names. Aki Corporation would follow this up with another WCW game, WCW vs. NWO World Tour for the Nintendo 64 in 1997. This game would be the Western counterpart to Virtual Pro Wrestling 64, coming out at around the same time in Japan. What would become the defining trait of the Aki-developed wrestling games, starting with this game, is the grappling system, a more realistic depiction of how wrestlers would often start a series of moves against each other with a grapple hold. Also new to this game were multiple different modes, some of which were inspired by the tournaments of the Japanese wrestling promotions. The 1998 WCW NWO Revenge would be Aki Corporation's next wrestling game released in the West. This would be one of the highest-selling third-party games for the Nintendo 64, as well as the best-selling wrestling game for that console. Improved graphics, bringing back the grappling system, and the rosters were up to date with who was active at that point. While the wrestling games developed by Aki Corporation would become successful, mostly on the Nintendo 64, the PlayStation WCW games developed by Inland Productions got moderate success, but not as big of a success as the Aki Corporation developed games. Both the Inland Production wrestling games and the Aki Corporation wrestling games were published by THQ. During this time, Acclaim Entertainment would bring new life into the WWF video games after only publishing them since 1989's WWF WrestleMania. The first WWF game developed by Acclaim Entertainment would be the 1998 WWF Warzone. This game would be released after WWF would beat WCW in TV ratings for the first time since 1996, at the height of the Attitude Era. Warzone would become the #1 selling wrestling game across all 32-bit consoles. One of the biggest innovations of this game was the Create a Wrestler mode. While more common in Japan's Fire Pro games, Create a Wrestler modes were never featured in the West up until this very game, and would become a very important feature in wrestling games going forward. Even with Nintendo 64 and Game Boy versions, Warzone would be regarded as the best wrestling game on the PlayStation. Acclaim's next WWF game would be WWF Attitude, which expanded its roster, improved the Create a Wrestler feature, and even offered custom-made arenas and pay-per-view events. This would be Acclaim's last WWF game before THQ reached a deal with WWF to become the exclusive publisher of their video games after opting not to renew its license agreement with WCW. The first WWF game under the new THQ banner would be WWF WrestleMania 2000, released in November 1999. The features include an increase in playable WWF talent following what helped make WWF Attitude successful, custom wrestlers, arenas, pay-per-views, and championship belts. WrestleMania 2000 would give some WWF fans that may not have any interest in WCW a chance to experience what initially made the Aki-developed WCW game successful. Japan would get their own version of this game 2 months later with Virtual Pro Wrestling 2, which would become Aki's last wrestling game developed exclusively for Japan. WrestleMania 2000 would be the precursor to the game widely regarded as a favorite among wrestling fans, No Mercy. In addition to the improved gameplay and updated roster to reflect on who was active in the beginning of the 2000s, No Mercy featured new modes unique to this game. Championship Mode, a single-player experience where you fight for different championship belts. The way your career progresses, and the way the story is told in this mode, is dependent on what matches you win and what matches you lose. The SmackDown Mall, where you can purchase cosmetics, moves, and other unlockable talent with in-game currency that you get from playing the different modes of the game. And speaking of SmackDown, after missing out on WrestleMania 2000, WWF's second main show, SmackDown, is featured in this game, as well as 8 pay-per-view arenas. Some pay-per-view sets were based on their 1999 appearance, while some were based on their 2000 appearance. Survival Mode is a gauntlet-style endurance match where you are pitted against up to 99 wrestlers, with only 3 opponents at a time allowed in the ring. You can eliminate your opponent battle royal style by eliminating them from the ring, or you can defeat your opponent by pin, submission, or knockout. Survival Mode ends if you are defeated one time. Survival Mode can be used to accumulate in-game currency quickly, as the more wrestlers you eliminate, the more money you make. Hidden talent can also be unlocked by personally eliminating them if they show up at any time during the survival mode. Backstage brawls are introduced in this game, capturing the appeal of wrestling angles where wrestlers would fight in random spots inside the arena. Ladder matches and special guest referee matches have also been added to this game, adding more variety to the different types of matches that can be experienced in the game. Originally, No Mercy would support the Nintendo 64's Transfer Pack, a peripheral that connected the Game Boy versions of Nintendo 64 games. This feature was even promoted at E3 2000, only for plans to falter before release, and removed entirely from the final version of the game that was released to the public. WWF No Mercy was released in North America in November 2000 and Europe in December 2000. The immediate reception was overall positive for the game, with much of the praise going towards technical improvements and the simplicity of the game itself. And over time, in retrospective reviews, No Mercy is still regarded as one of the best when compared to the newer wrestling games. Wrestlers themselves have cited No Mercy as being one of, or the best wrestling game. While No Mercy was a success among critics and fans, it did not sell as much as WCW NWO Revenge did, nor did it match the success of the WWF SmackDown video game series, which had been developed around the same time by Yuke's for the PlayStation. No Mercy would be the last wrestling game developed by Aki Corporation that is based on a wrestling promotion, but it would not be their last wrestling game. Their next series of wrestling games would be the Def Jam games, wrestling games based around the music artists signed to Def Jam Records. Aki Corporation's last set of wrestling games would be based on the Kinnikuman franchise based in Japan, which was localized in the States by Fox Kids as Ultimate Muscle. Aki Corporation now goes by Sin Sophia, which abandoned the wrestling market but has been successful with the Wagamama Fashion franchise, released in the States as Style Savvy and released in the PAL region. Currently, the WWE video games are being developed by Visual Concepts, creators of the NBA 2K franchise. Hideyuki Iwashida, who served as the director of WCW NWO Revenge, WWF WrestleMania 2000 and No Mercy, and Def Jam Vendetta, returned to wrestling video games as an advisor for All Elite Wrestling's first video game, Fight Forever, released in June 2023. In September 2023, the NXT brand of WWE held a premium live event named No Mercy, with an introduction that referenced the intro of the No Mercy video game using the wrestlers on the PLE's card. Wrestling games have served as a supplement to fans of professional wrestling. Some sell well, some are critically acclaimed, and then there are those that bomb critically, financially, or both. But wrestling games do occasionally hit that successful stride with improvements from the previous year's release. However, no matter how much wrestling video games grow with the times and the technology, the nostalgia for Nintendo 64's WWF No Mercy continues to thrive and show that for many fans, the simplicity outweighs the quantity of features and advances made in today's wrestling video game.
You know, ever since college, me and my brother Devon have had a real problem showing mercy. Back then, we showed no mercy in the classroom. And now, the Dudley boys show no mercy in the ring. So when THQ asked us to be the No Mercy spokesman, we naturally agreed.
Wage war in all new backstage areas, perform vicious double team moves, and show no mercy in the high-flying ladder match. WWF No Mercy for Nintendo 64. It doesn't get any badder than this. Rated T for teen.
I may not look so hot to you, but you should see yourselves through my eyes. Creepy. My name is Seaman. You don't know me, but you will. Some say my amphibious nature makes me seem odd. That's because I'm part fish. I must be cold, insensitive, and creepy. I beg to differ. You may not think I'm attractive, but your wife will. Grrr.
Taste the blood, swallow the tears, feel the fear, and get ready for combat. When evil returns, its name is Gift. Fact 2 has no mercy. Fact 2 will reign. One lone savior. Heavy Metal Fact 2. Summer 2000.
Whoa, what the? What's going on here? Mamma mia! Mario Tennis!
Lovable, unpredictable, programmable. It's The Sims.
Hey there, sport. What's all the racket?
It's fusion, Daddy. The key to a cleaner burning fuel resides in this... You're a moron. You know that, right?
When you create the characters and design the surroundings, anything's a possibility. The Sims. It's a new game every day.
Rated T for Teen.